Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, pause this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. In the context of this podcast, everybody refers to us and our cat. You are free to feel however you want about Rand, who is a fictional character. Don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
Okay. This is Everybody Hates Rand. It's your friendly neighborhood Wheelie Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I'm Sally Goodger.
So Crown of Swords, we've sort of reached peak sexiness when Matt catches the dagger out of the air. That moment's real horny for me,
it's a good
personally.
Moment. We leave Rand convalescing after his second Fisher King wound. So we leave Kyrie in and we bounce back to Embroider, where Matt is having yet another no good, very bad, horrible day.
Yeah, it's like the day after. Day after the last time we saw Matt. It's getting more and more infuriating to me, because when we started this, when we started this season, we were like, this cannot take place in 11 days.
Yeah.
And then all evidence is to the contrary. It apparently does take place in 11 days. And I'm like, still, it doesn't feel like it.
No, it really doesn't. Like, Matt, I think it's just the sheer volume of things that happened to him in these chapters that I'm like...
Yeah, the sheer volume, which is, like, not a lot for a typical, like, fantasy character, but is a lot for a Wheel of Time character. Where, like, especially in Lord of Chaos, things were happening, like, once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
To everyone. But with Matt, it's just, like, thing after thing after thing. He keeps getting attacked by either Tylan or random bands of vagrants who are actually dark friends. He's at the horse races, he's at the inn, he's in alleys getting attacked, he's drinking with Brigitte. There's, like, a lot of stuff going on with him.
Yeah. So, it's very strange. Very, very strange. But we sort of pick up, and the gang is going off to the Rahad to get the Bowl of the Winds. So Matt comes downstairs. All the coaches are arranged. Elaine is talking to the Knitting Circle ladies.
Yeah, there's a few members of the kin who, spoiler alert, a few of them die later, and Matt, like sort of says things about them as though he is familiar with them, and not as though he has just met them the day prior.
Yeah.
Like, he shows more of an emotional reaction to the kin, members of the kin dying than, like, half a dozen of his actual soldiers.
Yeah.
Not discounting Nalishan, who he is probably the most upset about, obviously.
Yeah, Emily, you have to be more upset about women dying than men dying. That's the law.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's annoying.
It's extremely stupid. Like, you can be upset about anybody dying because it's upsetting, but, like, yeah, Matt whatever, you should feel... It is okay to feel a bigger feeling about someone you know dying than someone you met this morning dying. That's how human emotion works.
Yeah, I just think it's annoying because they're, like, especially annoying amongst all the other reasons it's annoying, because it's, like, just part of this particular, like, militant type of manhood that is in Robert Jordan's works, where it's like, okay, well, if you're a soldier boy, then death is just part of the inevitable experience or whatever. And so Matt's just like, oh yeah, they're soldiers, so this is more or less what they signed up for. And I'm like, no one signed up to face a Golem.
Yeah, no one signed up.
Robert Jordan's creepy vampire monster.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to be like, hey, what the fuck? My guys are just supposed to be like bodyguarding you in a normal, if dangerous city, not facing supernatural creatures and Mogadeen, who you guys didn't tell me about and would not have told me about.
Yeah, like this scene, hearing you put it all together, like Matt should be angry at Elaine and Nynaeve.
Matt should be 300% more angry at Elaine and Nynaeve than he is, and he is already, like, sort of operating on a baseline level of anger toward them. And I'm like, if he was, like, raging, then it would be totally acceptable, because they're being so insane to him.
Yeah, well, and it's also just, like, if they had brought Matt into the fold a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago, however long they've been in Ebudar, perhaps the Dark Friends wouldn't have caught up with them and killed all their people while they were sitting around, titties in hand, complaining that no one takes them seriously. Like, it's just like their incompetence and their immaturity has fallen on a bunch of Matt's men dying and the kin dying, but we don't see any of the Aes Sedai dying. Like, they don't have to accept the consequences.
Yeah, it's also particularly annoying. I keep just being like, it's also annoying because da-da-da-da-da. This is just gonna be annoying. But I really did not like how, for some reason, probably like character economics, Robert Jordan doesn't like to give us too many characters that we know all in the same group. He doesn't like them all to be in the same room for some reason.
Yeah.
As though we might start to think, hey, it's weird that our ensemble all hates each other. But like, Matt comes up to Elaine and is like, where are Tom and Julian and Avienda and Brigitte? And she's like, oh, they're all watching Carradine's house. And I'm like, all fucking 4 of them?
Yeah. You sent all of your good fighters away.
4 people for a stakeout? Avienda's a very powerful channeler.
Yeah.
Brigitte is your one, using like RPG terms, like long range fighter who's not magic based. Tom, I guess, is too, since he throws knives. Yeah, 4 of your best fighters who are also way more fully cognizant of the danger of what's about to happen than anyone else. Whatever.
Yeah, it's like, why would you send them away? I would want Brigitte and Avienda with me if I went into the Rayhead.
Yeah, just period.
Like, I would want Brigitte and Avienda with me doing anything because they're both really competent. But Robert's like, we can't have too many competent women on screen.
We also have to nerf our competent women by knocking Elaine unconscious and having Nynaeve, like, shielded for the better half of this fight.
Yeah, Nynaeve is also acting like a full fucking dumbass this entire chapter. Which this happens after Nynaeve gets married. This is another thing that nerfs her character, is she is always acting like an idiot when Lan is around. She's always obsessed with where he is. She's also always trying to, like, follow him. Like, in Path of Daggers, she just, like, runs off into the forest after him while they're all, like, fleeing from the Shanshan invasion.
Yeah.
And in this chapter, she's, like, gets embarrassed because he overhears that she was talking to Elaine about their wedding night.
Which, oh my god, it's totally normal to talk about the weddings specifically. What Nynaeve is relating to Elaine, I believe. Which is, for some reason, not related to us in detail until maybe we get a Nynaeve point of view in the next book or 2.
Yeah.
But, like, for whatever reason, the Sea Folk wedding ceremony, the idea is that they have structured into the wedding ceremony power dynamics, of course, because it's Robert Jordan and he's obsessed with power dynamics, especially between married people.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is that the person who has the most, like, power in public gets to wield that power in public, but then the other person gets the power in private.
Mm-hmm.
The idea being that you won't be too mean to your partner in public because they might get back at you in private, which is fully an insane way to structure a relationship.
Yeah, like, how that doesn't work.
And we're just, like, told this as though Nynaeve and Lan, because they happen to get married by the Sea Folk, are just, like, bound by those rules. They are not Sea Folk.
Yeah.
You are not obligated to follow the cultural dynamics of whoever, like, said the magic words to marry you.
Yeah.
That's... what?
I know, it feels like just one way for Robert Jordan to be like, yes, Nynaeve is very powerful and very important politically, but don't worry, Lan is in charge in the bedroom.
Robert, I assure you, I would have assumed that anyway based on everything you have ever written about what you think women are like and what you think men are like.
I know.
Never in my life would I have been like, wow, I bet Nynaeve is like a dom in the bedroom. And Lan is like her happy and delighted sub. Like, in what universe, Robert Jordan, would I believe that?
Yeah, like...
I mean, a better one, obviously, but I don't believe in you.
But yeah, I don't believe in you.
All you do is disappoint me.
Yeah. So, it's this strange thing that's been written in for what reason, I don't know.
And it's like, if I were Nynaeve, of course I would tell my friends that.
Yeah, you'd be like, listen to this shit.
Yeah, you'd be like, what the And of course she would probably also be like, our wedding night was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was great having sex for my first time with this person.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da. And the way Nynaeve reacts when Lan overhears a very, like, normal snippet of that, it's not like Elaine comes out of the carriage and is like, well, but you said Lan's dick was this long, you know? Which I would be like, hello, please don't talk about my body.
Yeah.
To your friends. But it's just, in very general terms, you said it was great.
Yeah.
And Nynaeve reacts like, oh my god, he's going to spank me in the bedroom or something erotically. This makes me insane.
No, it's so stupid. So in this whole chapter, Nynaeve, our most powerful channeler in this group, is completely distracted, being like, I need to make sure Lan isn't mad at me.
Yeah, the reason she is shielded by the two Black Aja ladies, they are able to, like, sneak up on them, is because she's busy having this conversation with Lan. So it's like, how can a set of chapters be both this infuriating and this sexy? Because everything Matt does in these chapters is very...
Yeah, Matt's great in these chapters. He's at, like, peak Matt.
He's peak Matt, peak delightful.
Yeah.
Also going through it, which, as much as I do not like the situation, I do appreciate, like... I don't appreciate the situation, but I do appreciate... I can't appreciate the way Matt's trauma is being rendered in these very true to Matt ways, which, as we've already talked about, is complicated because does Robert Jordan even really view this as a trauma?
Yeah.
It's hard to say, but he has written Matt to be a very traumatized character in these two chapters.
Yeah, well, it starts and he's in, like, a textbook case of hypervigilance. He's, like, walking down the halls of the palace and he, like, cannot relax.
Well, yeah, because he talks about how the night previously he, like, came home to the palace and was, like, assaulted by a group of women who dragged him to Thailand.
Yeah.
And like, took his clothes off.
Yeah.
Which is just so many levels of wrong that we'll just leave that there. But,
yeah, it's just, like, I think an under-talked about part of this is the way that the entire Terracin Palace is complicit in Matt's sexual abuse in abusing Matt. They're all just like, we'll starve him, we'll take him to Thailand, we'll do all of this. Like, we don't even, like, no thought of anybody. A single servant seems to be thinking about how Matt feels in this situation.
Yeah, they're all just, like, appendages of Thailand, which... on the one hand is a really good way of sort of making clear to us how Thailand's power is so complete.
Yeah.
And how it is a really terrifying like prospect versus Matt, who is a single person.
Yeah.
Matt's a single person versus
this whole institution.
This whole hundreds of people.
Yeah.
So while that's good, it again is just rendered it could be this whole situation, if Robert Jordan was coming at it with the right attitude, would be, there are so many aspects of it that are like, oh, that's interesting and well written, but then because there's an edge of Robert Jordan thinking it's funny, the characters thinking it's funny, it's like, okay, a lot of the bite is taken out of it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm gonna not get this right, gonna bastardize something that you said, but when we were talking about Ender's Game on We Don't Watch Outlander, you said something like, Orson Scott Card unintentionally wrote a really good book about child abuse.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, it it doesn't land because there's like
That's not what he thought
that's
the
not
book
what
he
he
was
thought
writing
the
was.
book was about. So there are scenes that completely, again, take the bite out of all this like really interesting depictions of child abuse that like provoke a lot of thought. But then there'll be parts where it's like, we had to abuse children to save the universe or whatever, that like take the bite out of it. So Robert Jordan wrote a really good, several books, a really good arc about sexual abuse and like the abuse of power. But that's not what he thought he was writing about.
Robert Jordan thinks he's writing a
Yeah.
funny rom-com about an older woman and a younger man.
Yeah.
And their little comedy of errors.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's not what you did, though.
Yeah. So, like, it just goes back to that cognitive dissonance. So
Matt is hyper-vigilant, stressed out, very emotionally frayed.
yeah.
He refers multiple times to how he's on the edge of hysterical laughter or hysterical crying.
Yeah.
But he comes down to this courtyard. He sees Elaine talking to the kin. They are talking about how the Aes Sedai are not accompanying them. Again, why are the Aes Sedai not accompanying them? And also about how the Aes Sedai do not believe that the kin say that the kin are as old as they say they are.
Yeah.
Rhiann is what, 400 something?
Yeah. I wouldn't believe it either.
I mean, I wouldn't believe it either, but also the way Robert Jordan has always written the Aes Sedai, I kind of always thought they were multiple hundreds of years old. I would have thought Cadsuan was 300 years old.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think maybe the issue is that Rhiann is older than Cadsuan, and Cadsuan is supposed to be our oldest Aes Sedai. So they're like, you simply can't be older than Cadsuan. That's absurd.
Yeah, it's very weird ages stuff.
Yeah.
But Matt comes up to Elaine and is like, hey, where can we leave? Can we get the show on the road? Where's Nynaeve? Where's everyone?
Yeah.
And she's again like, okay, well, half of our normal party is not coming with us. And Nynaeve will just be down whenever she's down. And Matt's like, ugh, okay. A servant comes up and gives Matt what is essentially like a fruit basket. And is like, this is from the queen, da-da-da-da-da. And Matt is, like, feels humiliated, even though, in his mind, none of the witnesses, besides the servant herself, know what's going on.
Yeah.
But he's just like, oh my gosh, this is so humiliating. Rushes away. To sort of join his guys, which is when Nynaeve and Lan come down, I believe. Mm-hmm. Matt is, of course, shocked to see Lan, because the last time he saw him was in Cairhien after Moiraine died, and is like, oh, hello?
Hi, you're still alive?
What the hell's going on? But they get going, and for some reason split by genders, of course, so Matt's in a carriage with Lan, Nalashon, and Beslin, who is also for some reason going. Like, why do we have Beslin but not like Avienda and Burji, you know?
Right? Like, what
it's
the
absurd.
fuck?
The composition of this group.
Yeah, can we just replace Beslin with Brigitte? She can be in the bro carriage.
I would love if Brigitte, Lan, Matt, and Nalashon had
Just hanging.
a hangout moment together. Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, the reason that we are given for these various characters and the Aes Sedai staying behind is that for some reason no one thinks that this is going to be any sort of dramatic or violent thing.
Yeah.
Matt has insisted from the start that if you're going into the Rayhad, it's a very dangerous neighborhood, and therefore you should bring the bodyguards, which is why as many people as are going. Elaine and Nynaeve, though, have the crucial piece of information that Moghedien is escaped and is after them. Mm-hmm. And Nynaeve almost got killed yesterday. 2 of Matt's soldiers did get killed.
Yeah.
So that sort of overarching excuse is just, like, rendered immediately useless.
Yeah.
If you were Nynaeve and Elaine and had brains in your head, but you don't, because you're Robert Jordan writing these women, and women don't have brains, they just have pussies, or something.
Women don't have brains, they have
babies. They have wombs that... Embroider that on a pillow. Women don't have brains, they have babies. Hashtag feminism. Hashtag Lovelines.
Stop! I'm gonna ban you from Lovelines. It's become the new Muppet walk in this household.
Anyway, so in this carriage of bros,
of dudes.
It says after Matt made the introductions, which we don't get to say, but Matt
Could you
being like,
imagine?
this is Lan, he's...
For some reason, he married Nynaeve.
For some reason, yeah, Lan's like, well, I married Nynaeve last night, and da-da-da-da-da. And everyone's like, congratulations. And Matt's like, congratulations, I guess. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, he's like, couldn't be me, but happy for you, I guess.
Yeah, okay. You're like, whatever. And Lan turns to Matt and says, hey, Nynaeve doesn't want to tell you this, but 2 of your guys are dead because Moghedien attacked them. And Matt's like, oh, okay.
This is reason number 1 that Matt should have gone absolutely.
Matt should have at that point been like, pull over to the
Yeah.
carriage and got out and stormed up to their carriage and been like, hello?
Yeah.
What the hell?
What the hell is wrong with you? Should have flipped their carriage over since
Yeah.
they all landed in the dirt.
Got on a Hulk rage or
Yeah.
something.
Like, what is wrong with them that they would not tell Matt that 2 of his guys died?
And one of the Forsaken is after them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why Robert Jordan's arc with Moghedien and these 2 girls has been like, okay, they meet them, it's very scary. Nynaeve narrowly defeats Moghedien and then is terrified of her for quite a while afterward. Then they capture Moghedien, do all sorts of humiliating things to her, and then when she's out of captivity, they're just like, no big deal. I guess because they've handled her before. And it's like, you got so extremely lucky, not to like downplay that accomplishment, but every time you fight someone who's very powerful and much more knowledgeable than you, that's a huge risk.
Yeah, like, Nynaeve has definitely done some cool stuff in regards to fighting Moghedien, but luck always plays a part in fights.
You're not Taviran as much as you should be.
Yeah, and also, like, if you beat someone once, why would you risk needing to beat them again? You know, like, you should just...
A boss fight is still a boss.
Yeah,
even,
like...
they're still whatever level they were before, no matter what you've done to them.
Yeah, like, it should make you freaked out every time you fight anybody, because you could die.
Yeah.
What? You idiots? They just think they're invincible.
But they finally, like, pull up to the harbor. Matt gets out and goes to talk to Elaine and Nynaeve, obviously. This is when Lan overhears Nynaeve talking and is just like, I don't give a shit. And we should probably just take his word for that he actually does not give a shit.
Yeah.
What Nynaeve says to her friends. But Matt's like, can I talk to you? And Elaine is like, yeah, I want to talk to you. They told me what your dumb fruit basket means. And starts yelling at him about how he's forcing himself upon Tylan. He at that point gets super stressed and humiliated and like drags her away and is like, you've got it backwards, that's not what's happening. Says that he is being forced into a sexual relationship by Tylan. And Elaine goes, oh, well, that's pretty bad, and is like restraining laughter.
Yeah.
So, top 10 made me an anime villain moments. I'm gonna fucking murder her.
Yeah, she's really, really, really heinous in that moment.
But she's just like, okay, great, fine. And walks, like, doesn't even apologize
No.
for making that assumption.
No, she doesn't do it. She basically feeds him, like, platitudes about, like, well, maybe you shouldn't smile so much and, like, dumb shit like
she's
that.
She's like, oh, that's so funny that you're the queen's pretty. That's what they call.
Yeah.
Consorts.
And as she's, like, walking away, Matt hears her muttering something about him basically getting a taste of his own medicine.
Which, again, is patently untrue.
Yeah.
Anyway, Matt...
So that's moment number 2, where he should have... Maybe no, 2 and 3. First the assumption, and then the laughter.
Matt... This is, like, top heroic Matt moments. Because if I were Matt... There are so many, like, setups in fantasy books where, like, a narrator will tell you, and wow, I really wanted to yell, or I really wanted to walk away, or I really didn't want to do this. And this setup is such that if I were Matt, I genuinely would have walked away at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been like, fucking enough. If these girls get killed,
They get killed.
They get killed. They have done absolutely nothing to make themselves safer, to allow me to help them make themselves safe. They're total dicks to me, to all my men. What the fuck ever, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I consider myself an okay person and I would have walked away.
Yeah.
And I think most people would.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even enter Matt's head.
Yeah.
Matt's just like, okay, another day, another humiliation, another degradation. Comes up to Elaine, takes off his little fox medallion, and is like, here, I know Moghedion's after you, and either you or Nynaeve should wear this. So that you don't get murdered.
Yeah.
And that, for Elaine, is like, oh. Him presenting her of his own free will with something she really wanted is, for some reason, enough of a character assessment for her that not everything else Matt has done for you. But she's like, oh, wow, this is really impressive. Sorry. I don't even know if she says sorry, but she does say she will make sure Nynaeve knows what is actually going on, and she offers to talk to Tylin and try and resolve the problem. And also is like, I can't wear this because Nynaeve doesn't have one, and the girls don't have one, which is just like, okay, whatever.
It is like the most absurd twisting of female friendship. I refuse to be extra safe because one of my friends can't.
Which is like, honor, whatever. And
Why
it's
not
like,
give it to Nynaeve, the one Moghedien is actively targeting? Like, she's got Kill Bill sirens, target locked on Nynaeve's back.
it's just like we're supposed to be like, oh, here's some like female honor, you know? But it's like, you can be a little bit mercenary about this just in terms of rationale. Who is the most likely person in your group to be channeled at?
Yeah.
Give them the Foxhead medallion.
Yeah.
No one is going to channel directly at Matt
Yeah.
to like shield him
Yeah.
because he's not a channeler.
Yeah. It's like...
It makes me nuts.
It's like... malevolent honor. We've got benevolent
Sexism and malevolent feminism. Equality in me and my girlfriends.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So it's very silly and frustrating, but at least Matt gets to keep his medallion, which is good because then he uses it later to
But he's like,
beat the Golem.
oh, I don't want you to fix things with Tylin. I don't know what I want, basically.
Yeah.
And Elaine is just like, I understand, and walks away. And it's like, patently, you don't understand. Because if someone was talking to you about a situation this serious, you would be like, we do need to resolve this.
Yeah.
We need to get you out of this situation somehow. But Elaine just walks away. They all get on their riverboats and sail across to the Rayhad.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da.
Come sail away.
Come sail away, come sail away. Walk through the Rayhad, which Matt describes as a sort of cognitive dissonance of its own because they are with the kin who are so revered throughout Ebudar that, like, they are not getting attacked.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt's like, oh, this is just kind of weird and funny. There's, like, a lot of threats hanging about, scary-looking people, but
Yeah.
because we're with the kin, all those threats seem to be nullified.
That's basically like that scene in Tangled where she goes into the, like, assassin bar.
Yeah,
But
and with
because
her,
she can...
because she's so perky
Yeah,
and feminine.
she's so perky and feminine, they're all like, oh, we won't actually attack you.
Yeah.
It's basically that scene.
Because I'm a manic pixie dream girl.
Yeah.
They get to this house, this random 6th-floor house. They go in. The setup is described as a pretty narrow hallway.
Yeah.
Which is just a little bit weird because then a lot of people end up in this hallway fighting. So I was struggling with that. But they walk in, Matt, like, sends his guys, like, okay, some of you go to the back and secure all the exits. And Elaine or Nynaeve or someone is like, what's the big deal? Like, obviously nothing's going to happen. Which is famous last words.
Yeah.
Elaine's like, let's just go. Like, let's go get the bowl, and runs upstairs, followed by a couple of the kin, most of the kin, I guess, and Vannon is the only guy who I think goes with them. That's when Nynaeve and Lane are arguing. Matt is also like, I want to go upstairs, but Nynaeve and Lane are in my way.
Yeah.
Which is when the two Black Aja ladies, on Moghedien's orders, presumably, although Moghedien herself is not present, and a sort of random band of thugs show up and are like, oh, hello, we're here.
We are here.
They, like, monologue demonically for a minute about how really they're just members of the White Tower, Aja, and Nynaeve's a rebel or whatever, assuming no one in this room knows what's going on. And Nynaeve's like, shut up, they're Black Aja, and they have me shielded. Fighting breaks out.
Yeah.
With Lan just tackling them, which is, like, I don't love Lan as a character, but, like, as a fighter, it is pretty hilarious that he is like, the best way to stop a woman from channeling is to break her concentration, therefore I, a very tall man, will tackle them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, I mean, fucking efficient.
Yeah, I mean, he knows how to fight.
Yeah.
At least they brought Lan with them. Jesus Christ.
And that does get Nynaeve unshielded, so she can start engaging in a magic battle of wills with these ladies. She is trying to prompt the kin who remain behind to join in with her. But she says, then they hear Elaine or someone scream up above. So Nynaeve's like, please go up there, Matt. Matt runs upstairs 6 stories, which I would be like...
He says he takes it at a full run. 6 stories. And I'm like, I'm gonna lay down.
He must be so physically fit.
I know.
Which is shocking because he drinks so much.
He seems to only sit around and drink alcohol,
and
but...
he smokes a pipe, so his lung capacity must be whatever.
I don't know.
Nothing is more healthy than a 22-year-old man, I guess.
I mean, they really do have some sort of weird physical...
superpower, like
what are you doing? Yeah, they can just, like, eat 8 pizzas in a row and be fine. And
they're
I'm
like, let's go run a marathon. And you're like, hello?
Are you okay?
Anyway, Matt runs upstairs, finds this sort of... Everyone's on the ground in various stages of bleeding and unconscious.
Yeah.
As he walks up, a woman is screaming toward him. The Golem walks up behind her and snaps her neck with his bare hands. So Matt is immediately like, what the fuck?
Big yikes.
Yeah, big yikes. There are some other guys, I think, who are sort of trying to break down a door. But Matt and the Golem face off. Matt tries to attack him and gets, like, yeeted, physically yeeted across the hall. And is like, okay, this is not a normal person.
Yeah.
Nalishan comes up, having chased after Matt, and the Golem, because he's in the way, rips his throat out with his bare hands, which is very gross. But that just happens right in front of Matt.
Yeah. One of his best buds.
Nalishan, by the way, had been arguing, like, this is a classic, this character's about to die thing, but Nalishan just kept talking about, it's like he was like, it's my last day before retirement,
Yeah.
But instead, Nalishan kept talking about how he had a shitty night's sleep.
Yeah.
And did not want to get out of bed this morning.
Yeah.
So, anyway, R.I.P. to a real one.
No, I get sadder and sadder every time I read this.
I know. It would have been so nice if Matt had Nalishan with him for the rest of his time in Ebudar.
Too was like, I won't leave Ebudar, Matt. I'll stay with you and over.
God, I love you, Nalishan.
I know, he's the realist.
We love you.
Why couldn't Elaine have gotten her throat ripped out?
These are the big questions.
Why does Nalishan have to suffer for her incompetence?
Anyway, Matt, kind of in this same moment, runs up and is, like, trying to stab the Golem. He does stab him multiple times, but the Golem is like, whatever, flips over and is, like, holding Matt's wrists or something and forcing his hands back so he can grab Matt's head or something. So this sort of, like, strength. Matt talks about throwing his whole weight against him, which I know Matt's not a very big guy, but still. And Matt's like, okay, this is getting scarier and scarier. He's, like, inching. It's like a knife kind of inching toward you. When his medallion just, like, falls out of his shirt, which is always half unlaced. So we've got that sort of, like, setup.
Yeah.
The medallion falls on the Golem and appears to, like, burn him because the Golem throws Matt away and starts screaming.
Yeah.
And Matt gets up kind of dazed and is like, what the fuck? Like, looks at his medallion like, it's the normal metal feel. I don't know what's going on. Elaine on the other side of the room starts kind of waking up, and the Golem turns toward her menacingly. And Matt has this delightful, like, I think the Golem before that threw the knife.
Yeah, threw the knife.
That Matt stabbed him with back at him. Matt snatches it.
Yeah.
So Matt's standing there with the knife and the medallion, like, what's going on? This is horrifying. I've just watched 2 people be murdered in front of me. One of them my good friends.
Yeah.
And is just, like, does not want to be there. It's, like, palpably, like, he really wants to run away from this.
Mm-hmm.
But Elaine starts waking up, and the Golem turns toward her, and Matt is just like, shit.
Yeah.
I have to do something. And his sort of running theme is that he made a promise. An unwilling promise, by the way, to Rand.
Yeah.
Extracted from him. But as we have been told by other characters, Matt's sort of code of honor is his word. Mm-hmm. He's given his word that as much as he does not like Elaine personally, he is going to make sure she's safe.
Yeah.
So he rips the medallion off and starts whirling it in like a figure 8 pattern and advancing on the Golem and says, you can't have her.
Yeah.
And the Golem's like, trying to like a cat trying to snatch past the danger zone to get at Matt and can't. So finally he turns and runs and like goes into another room, slams the door behind him. Matt chases after him, enters this room that does not have any escape routes, but the Golem is gone. At which point Elaine is really waking up, so Matt goes to attend to her. Just a little side note about the Golem. The Golem is one of Robert Jordan's supernatural creatures. It is supposed to be, the word golem is a little bit derived from a golem, which is a concept from Hebrew or Jewish mythology of a creature that is created and then sort of responds to the will of its creator. A golem usually made out of stone or clay or something. The golem itself has vampiric traits. It's sort of unkillable. It doesn't really bleed.
Yeah.
It doesn't drink blood necessarily, but it does glory in the shedding of blood. It can like slip through cracks and things that aren't there. The only thing that's not vampiric about it is that it can go out in sunlight and it doesn't turn into a bat, you know. But it is supposed to be this sort of like human-shaped monster.
I thought it did drink blood.
It might, maybe. Oh, does it like in
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
in
there's
Winter's
a
Heart?
scene-
Is it like people being drained of blood?
Yeah. He's like going on like a killing spree, looking for Matt throughout the city, and I think it's like draining people of blood or something. I can't remember. I think
you're
finished
probably
that
right.
book,
That sounds
so-
very familiar to me. So maybe it does drink blood,
But it also revels in the like shedding of blood. Like it's a
Yeah.
blood-based creepy creature.
it's sort of like Robert Jordan has taken the like undead aspect out of it. I mean, I know you can't kill it, and in that way it's undead, but sort of vampires are sort of like connected to coffins, and like the nighttime, and are by appearances very dead looking.
Yeah.
The Golem doesn't have any of those traits necessarily. Instead, the Golem is sort of designed to be this perfect like contrast to Matt. This very like slippery figure who's very average by appearances, but he's sort of also this sort of like Jack the Ripper, very serial killer designed character.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be very, very spooky whenever
Yes.
we find out the Golem is after Matt.
Yes.
And to a certain extent it is.
Yeah.
Even though we know Matt has plot armor, the Golem is clearly good at killing people around Matt. So that's sort of what's freaky about him. But that's our main introduction to the Golem. Matt's ongoing nemesis for quite a few books after this. Matt goes to help Elaine, and she's like, has yet another sort of change of heart. She's like, wow, God, Matt really is just a brave, good boy.
Yeah. You
She's
dumb
just
idiot.
like, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And he's like, okay, yeah, I did. What the fuck? She tries to heal someone, but she's shitty at healing. Starts screaming for Nynaeve. Nynaeve comes upstairs. Followed by Lan, of course. And then the two kin, one of them is like dragging one of the Black Aja ladies. I don't know what happened to the other one. Did she die or did she run away?
I don't know. I know the one we end up with is Ibsen.
Someone, whatever.
I don't know what happens to the other one.
I think Fallion gets away. Because I think she appears later in Camelon, but I could be wrong. Anyway. Nynaeve starts healing people. Obviously, Nalishan is already dead. 2 of the kin are already dead. Everyone else is sort of okay, able to be okay. Elaine goes looking for the bowl. And they're like, oh, Matt's guys who were stationed in the back come up and are like, yeah, they just attacked us and ripped through us. So overall, not a great little expedition. Multiple people dead. But Elaine emerges with the Bowl of the Winds and is like, we've got it. Let's start packing things up. Because apparently this is a storeroom full of Angreal. Angreal, it's the thing Samael's looking for. So Matt, this chapter sort of ends with Matt just being like, okay, great, we've got it. Let's get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Earlier, he'd said to Elaine, like, let's just get the Bowl of the Winds and get out of Ebudar. And she was like, no, because he was like, why would we bother watching Carradine? We're not sticking around. She was like, no, we're going to have to stay to, like, figure out how the Bowl of the Winds works. And just, we have things to do. But we'll talk about this more, I guess, with the next chapter. They do decide to leave right away. And it's just by accident that Matt gets stuck behind. So, we have peak heroism by Matt and peak dumbassery by the female characters, which is sort of just how Robert Jordan likes it.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating because this whole setup does allow us to, like, have this really good, glorious Matt moment, but the whole setup is just, like, drenched in Robert Jordan's sexism, so sort of kills the fun a little bit.
Yeah, I really hate how Robert Jordan brings me into his sexism along with him, because it's like, I don't like, getting to the point where I don't like any of the female characters in Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
I only like the male characters, and I'm like,
that's so
don't
annoying.
drag me into your sexism.
I know you don't like any of your female characters. Do you have to make me hate them too?
Yeah, like,
God.
fuck.
But how am I supposed to respond to characters who consistently disregard the safety of others?
Yeah.
Who consistently make really bad choices? Like, how am I supposed to respond to that?
Yeah,
you know?
they're also just, like, they're rude, they're not kind, they're very self-centered, like, there's nothing there for me to work with.
All we've got is Brigitte.
All we've got is Brigitte, and she's very masculinized.
Yes.
Made up a word there, probably.
No, that
But,
sounds great.
Which is unfortunate. Like, she's allowed to have her sort of femininity in regards to her sexuality, but that's its own other bag of worms.
Well,
we did it.
We have one more chapter in Ebudar. Next week we'll be covering that. Sort of the main plot point that we're working with is the finishing up of this little arc. We'll also be doing a chapter with Savannah, I think, where the Shadow get transplanted across the continent.
Fun.
Not fun, I would say, but it's there, so we gotta read it. So two more weeks, 2 more episodes.
2 more episodes. Could you believe it? Believe it!
Believe it! Naruto? That's our boy Naruto. I said Nart to Devin the other day, and he was like, is there really a character named Nart? And I was like, no, that's just what we call him.
That's just what we call him. Nart.
Anyway. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks to Glenna McKenzie for our theme song. Thanks to our patrons on Patreon, and our listener and our followers on social media. We have a shout out.
Yeah, we want to shout out a new Wheel of Time podcast. It is specifically talking about the television show,
which is in the process of coming out at the moment as we're recording.
It is called Never Mind the Trollocs, which is a great title.
Yep.
It's very fun.
I agree.
A disclaimer, we have not had the chance to listen to it yet, but it is hosted by some folks we do know, including Sarah McClintock, who's guested on the podcast. So we trust that all the hosts over there have really interesting things to say about the TV show. And as we have mentioned on this podcast, we are not interested in doing in-depth analysis of the television show. We want to remain focused on the books, That's what the podcast has always been about. That's what Emily and I are trained in, is literary analysis. That's what we enjoy doing. So that's where we're going to keep our focus. So if you are looking for more analysis about the television show, Nevermind the Trollocs is going to be a great place for you to get it. So go check them out.
Go right on over there.
Yeah, you can find them, I believe, on any of the usual podcatchers, but you can also find them on Instagram and Twitter at, you can just search Nevermind the Trollocs. And you can connect with them that way too. So,
go forth
and listen.
That's it for me.
That's it for me.
Do you have a sign off?
I feel like I should, given everything that's happened this week, but
I mean, I do.
Oh, go for it.
Just that I got my COVID booster shot, and the lady was like, "All right, we recommend that you stay here for 15 minutes in case you have a reaction." I have not had an allergic reaction to the COVID vaccines, so I was not all too worried about that. But I faithfully, like a good medicine boy, set my timer and then figured I don't need to sit by the actual pharmacy.
Yeah.
I'm in the Smiths. If I collapse, someone will take me there. So I was wandering around the Smiths looking for a chocolate orange, the break apart kinds. That's my favorite treat. And over the loudspeakers, first was Waterloo by ABBA, but then it was just slid right into another ABBA song.
Amazing.
And then after that, another ABBA song. Some deranged Smiths employee was playing ABBA's greatest hits while I was wandering around in a daze looking for a chocolate orange.
Yeah.
It was just I felt like I was in a Wes Anderson movie.
Some employee really needed that playlist to get
someone
through the
was
day.
like, Jesus Christ, I've got Waterloo.
If I don't have ABBA, I will not make it through the day.
Which was relatable, honestly.
Yeah, that sounds like quite a fugue state.
I was like, am I dead?
Is this the bad place?
Is this the good place?
Ooh.
Because
ABBA and chocolate oranges.
But I couldn't find a chocolate orange, so it wasn't
the good place. Yeah.
It was the medium place.
Waterloo.
Okay, everyone. Have a good week.
The history book on a shelf. It's always repeating.
Stop.